All flights out of Shanghai's airport cancelled. Major tourist attractions such as Disneyland closed. Several high-speed train routes shut. Trees felled. Billboards destroyed. Buildings with siding ripped off. Electric poles uprooted. And the city's 25 million people advised to stay at home. Typhoon Bebinca, the strongest storm to hit Shanghai since 1949, made landfall on the 16th of September, bringing China's financial hub to a standstill. Another typhoon, Yagi, unleashed its fury earlier this month. It ripped through China's southern Hainan island, causing massive devastation. Typhoon Yagi traveled north from the Philippines, where it set off landslides and unleashed rains and flooding. So how are typhoons formed? What makes them different from hurricanes and cyclones? Does climate change affect typhoons? All this and more in this episode of Wide Angle. The morning of the 16th of September, 7:30 a.m. local time, Typhoon Bebinca barreled into the coastal area of Lingang New City in Shanghai's east with winds of 151 kilometers per hour. More than 1,400 flights from the city's two airports were cancelled, so were over 570 passenger trains. It is the strongest storm to hit Shanghai in 75 years, disrupting travel plans of people over the Mid-Autumn Festival holiday, a 3-day public holiday in China. Shanghai is rarely hit by strong typhoons, which usually make landfall further south in China. While in Hangzhou, about 170 kilometers southwest of Shanghai, authorities also cancelled hundreds of flights on the 16th of September. Highways were closed and a 40-kilometer-per-hour speed limit was put in place on roads inside the city. Shanghai's normally jammed roads looked almost empty, its skyline obscured by thick fog. Videos showed uprooted trees and metal billboards blown off by strong winds during Typhoon Bebinca. More than 60,000 emergency responders and firefighters were at hand to lend aid in Shanghai as the storm swept in, downing trees and disrupting transport across the region. Bebinca, the 13th typhoon of the year, has been wreaking havoc in Shanghai since making landfall. China has a 4-tier color-coded weather warning system, with red representing the most severe warning, followed by orange, yellow, and blue. Shanghai's Meteorological Observatory upgraded the yellow alert for heavy rain to orange, forecasting that total precipitation in the city will exceed 100 millimeters. According to Shanghai's Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters, more than 414,000 residents have been evacuated to safety. Over 800 ships have returned to port. Resettlement sites are fully equipped with power supplies, lighting, water, food, and other essential needs to support the evacuees. Measures were not limited to saving humans. Even Shanghai's first urban stray cat management center, Cat Island, took several measures to cope with the typhoon. The center relocated about 200 cats in an indoor area with food and water, as well as regular cleaning of cat litter. Over 2,500 rescue teams consisting of 56,000 rescue workers, backed by over 80 mobile pump trucks and 400 material warehouses, are on standby for emergency response. Shanghai authorities have gone all out to ensure the safety of residents. Local police and firefighters have been deployed, despite the dangerous conditions, to remove debris such as toppled trees, broken pipes and loosened rags from roads and residential buildings.
There are heavy rains and strong winds outside. We just took a chance of a lighter wind and patrolled the key outside devices such as the main transformer and the 500,000 kiloampere circuit breaker. They are operating normally now.
We regularly patrol along the beach and the seawall. In areas prone to waterlogging, we would divert the flood water in a timely manner. In the meantime, we have strengthened monitoring via video link so as to deal with emergencies in time.
Despite all the measures, 2 people died in China's eastern Jiangsu province, as Typhoon Bebinca brought torrential rains and powerful winds, before easing into a tropical storm. They were reportedly hit by a falling high-voltage power line and electrocuted. Bebinca came just days after another typhoon. Yagi wreaked havoc not only in China but across Southeast Asia, killing hundreds of people in Vietnam and Myanmar. On the 6th of September, Typhoon Yagi slammed into the nation's southernmost point, Hainan Island, with winds of 223 kilometers per hour. Yagi is the strongest typhoon to hit Hainan since Ramasun in 2014, which left 46 people dead. More than 400,000 people were evacuated ahead of the storm's expected landfall.
Why the Yagi developed into the super typhoon category. It was because, the typhoon moves westward from near the warm ocean near the Philippines into the South China Sea, and the sea surface temperature was actually as high as 31 degrees Celsius. The energy of the typhoon is supplied in the form of moisture evaporating from the warm tropical ocean surface. So typically, the typhoon can sustain its power as long as the sea surface temperature is 27 degrees Celsius or above.
Despite dangerous conditions caused by Typhoon Yagi in the province, a piece of positive news emerged. A team of medical professionals in South China's Hainan province successfully delivered a baby who required a rare blood transfusion. Severe flooding from the storm had blocked standard delivery routes after a grueling journey lasting several hours. the life-saving blood reached the hospital in Dongfang. The patient received a transfusion and gave birth to a healthy baby girl.
We had no time to consider our own safety. All we thought about was how to keep the mother and baby safe. We are medical workers. We always have people on duty. Even if we get hurt, we still have personnel to help out.
Millions of people in Southeast Asia continue to struggle with torrential rains, floods, and landslides triggered by Typhoon Yagi. The strongest tropical cyclone Asia has seen this year, and the second most powerful storm in the world so far this year after Hurricane Beryl. After passing over China's Hainan Island, Cyclone Yagi strengthened into a super typhoon, making landfall in Vietnam's Quang Ninh province and Haiphong city. Typhoon Yagi severely affected the Philippines, China, Laos, and Thailand. Vietnam and Myanmar were the worst hit. Super Typhoon Yagi and its aftermath have caused widespread destruction in northern Vietnam. Citizens in Hanoi were seen sheltering under bridges, while others struggled to ride their motorcycle in fierce winds. The typhoon tore across Vietnam's densely populated Red River Delta, a vital agricultural region, which is also home to major manufacturing hubs, damaging factories and infrastructure, and inundating farmland.
When we fell, it was terrifying as I didn't know how to swim. For me, it's coming back from the dead because as I was falling, I thought I would die.
I heard loud noises, but I only thought it was from a heavily loaded truck, and before I knew it, I was in the water. When I was in the water, I thought I would not survive. Both me and my motorbike were sinking almost to the bottom of the river, if not already. Then I gathered my breath and surfaced.
The death toll in Vietnam stands at 292, with 38 missing, more than 230,000 homes damaged, and 280,000 hectares of crops destroyed. One Vietnamese farmer, Nguyen Van Thi, stayed behind to guard his house after his family members were evacuated by the local authorities. Little did he know, despite all his efforts, Nguyen would not be able to save much.
My clothes and furniture are all under the water. Many things were floating around, but luckily I closed the doors so nothing washed away. I returned this morning to put them in a higher spot, but my bags of rice were all wet. My crops are all ruined. My rice field was almost ready for harvesting, but now it is all destroyed. All the crops are gone, so I lost everything.
Typhoon Yagi has caused an estimated $1.6 billion in economic losses. This damage is expected to affect the country's economic growth for the year. Although Yagi eventually weakened into a tropical depression, it continued to bring heavy rainfall, resulting in prolonged flooding and landslides across 26 provinces, including the capital city, Hanoi. The storm was later downgraded to a tropical depression, but still brought heavy rains to countries such as Myanmar, where it triggered severe floods around the remote capital, Naypyidaw. Video recorded in Naypyidaw shows damage to homes and infrastructure, with people clinging to the damaged bridge as they look to cross a swollen river. The devastation extended to 9 states and regions in Myanmar, including Naypyidaw, Mandalay to the north, Magway to the west, and Bago to the south. Regions that lie along the Irrawaddy, Myanmar's largest river. The United Nations said the floods are the worst in Myanmar's history. It has been estimated that some 630,000 people have been affected, with floods cutting off roads, damaging bridges and snapping communication lines.
I lost my rice, chickens and ducks. I don't care about other belongings. Nothing else is more important than the lives of people and animals. If the water rises too high here, I will untie my cows and let them free. It is terrible to experience flooding because we cannot live our lives when it happens. It can be okay for people who have money, but for the people who have to work day to day for their meals, it is not okay at all. I'm afraid of the floods.
Even before these floods, people in Myanmar were grappling with the effects of 3 years of war between the ruling junta and armed groups opposing to its rule. Thousands have been killed and millions forced from their homes. The flood crisis has only deepened miseries. In Loika district in eastern Kaya state, farmers like Chitien labor to save their rice crop that is completely submerged in the flood waters.
We have lost many things. We lost houses, clothes in the wars, and now the floods have swept away the house we are living in, and we can't save it. So there's nothing left for us. We can't even catch fish in floods, and we are in trouble for food. We are suffering a lot. Our village is empty, destroyed, and we can't go back right now. We don't want to stay in other places, but we can't stay at our home because of the floods. It makes me very upset.
In another piece of news from the country, residents who escaped floods and took shelter in a temporary camp were again found to be forced to relocate to a new safe place. The Yadu displacement camp in eastern Karen state were asked to move out.
We are already displaced people from war zones, and after the floods we don't have anything left. We are very sad. I just got married this year and I fled to this camp. But we are not the only ones who face this fate. All families are facing difficulties.
The recent crisis has prompted the junta to issue a rare appeal for foreign aid. Neighboring India, the first responder has sent 53 tons of emergency flood relief assistance worth $1 million to the People's Republic of Myanmar. Myanmar has not been the only recipient of much-needed aid. On the 15th of September, India launched Operation Sadbhav to send urgent supplies to Vietnam, Laos and Myanmar, the three countries devastated by Typhoon Yagi. Hurricanes, typhoons, or simply cyclones, the name differs based on where in the world the storm happens. Depending on the ocean basin in which they form, these tropical cyclones are contemplated with certain precision by national and regional weather agencies. Can the forecasts for cyclones, their speed and accompanying rainfall be improved?
So basically, generally several days before the typhoon will hit a certain area, the meteorologists will know more or less that there's going to be a typhoon, and they can bring out warnings. And based upon these warnings, the governments can, for instance, decide to evacuate certain areas or to make other precautionary measures in that area.
Experts are yet to reach an agreement over how exactly climate change is affecting tropical cyclones. That is because there are a lot of factors that determine whether a storm forms, how it develops, its strength, duration, and overall characteristics. However, there is a consensus that with rising global temperatures, tropical cyclones are becoming more intense. It is believed that climate change is reshaping the pattern of tropical storms, including typhoons, making them less frequent but more powerful.
For example, by the Meteorological Research Institute of Japan, with the quite high, horizontally high resolution atmospheric model, suggests that the total number of typhoon generation may be decreasing into the future, whereas the probability of those typhoons develop into the super typhoon level could be increasing.
The atmosphere can contain more water because the temperature is higher. That means that if there's a dry period, still the evaporation is higher than it used to be. So the chance of having a drought is in such a situation much higher. But then if there's a wet season, there's a lot of water in the atmosphere. And so the amount of precipitation, the amount of rain can become much higher also. So there's a certain logic in that in the same area, you can have a drought in one season and a flood in the next season.
Typhoon Bebinca, barreled into Shanghai, could hit 10 billion yuan. The storm was the biggest to hit the Chinese city since 1949. Globally, climate-related threats have led to millions of deaths and blocked development, as countries are increasingly becoming susceptible to severe cyclones. Enhancing resilience to weather based on certainties becomes ever more important.